You're listening to the Battle Belongs podcast, where real stories meet unwavering truth. This show is a space for bold conversations, powerful testimonies, and unshakable faith. In a culture at war with truth, we're here to remind you, the battle doesn't belong to us. The battle belongs to the Lord.
Do you ever get, do you ever fall into this reality, like you're on stage and that dictates your formation of worship, like how people see it?
But it used to. I think now I function the exact same way on and off stage.
Yeah.
And I told
Did you have to train yourself for that, to do that?
I had to honestly get out of the environment that taught me what worship was, because I think my idea of worship was reformed as a sophomore in college. I feel like that's the first time I ever started grieving in general, is like the things she was saying about herself, the things that she was like threatening, and the way she talked to me. I was like grieving the potential loss of a lot of things with my family if this was going to continue. And so that's when I brought a guitar to school and learned guitar. And that's when I read through all of the Psalms. And that into my junior year is what taught me what worship was. And so I remember when I went to audition for ACC, they were like, so how often do you do this? I was like, I actually haven't led worship in 2 years. They were like, huh? I was like, I had to relearn what it meant to me. And so I talked to them through that. But yeah, it took me leaving what I thought was the only way.
Yeah.
And then I told somebody a couple weeks ago, it wasn't this past time I led worship, but the time before on a Sunday, for 2 straight songs, I forgot I was on stage. Hadn't opened my eyes once and was just singing. And I was leading the songs. It wasn't like I was just harmonizing. And I opened my eyes. I was like, oh, I'm on stage still. I just forgot. And that was the most relieving thing I've ever experienced, because I still had the click track in my ears and people talking and leading us in things, but I just forgot. It was
you kind of stepped into a new world.
Yeah. It was the coolest thing I've ever done, leading worship. I was like, oh my gosh, wait. Yeah. I don't know. So I've learned a lot about it but it took just me and God first. No one taught me that. It was kind of okay, this is what I've been taught. If I were to step out of it and re-enter it, what does that look like?
No.
So.
Such a good intro. We've been recording this entire time. Yeah. And that's definitely going to be the intro into this. I loved it. And it's funny because Raina, if y'all are listening, Raina usually does the producing here. She wasn't able to be here, but she was like, I was hoping that someone would do something on worship and what it means to actually truly worship. So that's why I just let y'all just keep going.
Wait, that's funny.
So Raina, shout out to you. But instead we got Bryce behind the cameras today helping out. And with us, we have a guest, if you couldn't hear. Our first guest with the new setup. But
also a returning guest.
Yes, but new guest with the new setup, trying out the new setup. We're going to fix some things with the new setup for a new guest. But, as you all know, one of PJ's idols, Ashley Neubert.
You know what? I'm so tired of this word being turned around.
Okay, so the reason I say idols, and it's a joke, but if you ever hear me call someone one of PJ's idols, it's because you talk so highly of them. You talk so great behind their back. And I think everyone deserves a friend that talks so highly about their friends when they're not around.
Way to turn it around.
So we're going to cry now, probably.
It's like a backhanded compliment, but I love it. There's friends that talk trash about you behind your back when you're not there, and this one lifts you up.
They're on lift your name on high.
His Mount Rushmore of Christian women.
The Mount Rushmore.
Facts. She's the only. She holds that place.
Let's go.
So shout out.
Noobs. Thank you.
And we're talking about such an encouraging topic today.
Can't think of anything more exciting.
Yeah.
Probably.
Grief.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
The reality of grief. And we sent out a poll on Instagram and got a few responses. This was not one of them. So how did we come to terms with this being the conversation?
For starters, they always like to ask me my opinion on things, and I don't ever have one. And so they told me to pick a topic, and I was like, I hate when y'all do this to me. And then we got here today, and I still didn't have a topic. So PJ asked me what I've been learning recently, and I told him how to grieve, because I don't think it's something I've really done much before.
Did you happen to bring your little devotional book in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can we start with that?
Yes,
because
this is crazy.
It's also crazy of how we're just talking about the topics, and then we're riding in Ashley's car, and is it a devotional? Is that what it is?
It's called New Morning Mercies.
Okay.
It's really good.
It's not Jackie O'Berry, is it?
Paul David Tripp.
What's her book called? Isn't it like new something?
Did you say Paul?
Paul
David Tripp.
Is that a woman?
No, dude.
Oh, I think you said she. Okay.
Oh, Jackie. Okay, yeah. Before I chased that, yeah.
Oh.
But it was just crazy because then PJ starts reading it, and I don't know what part
August
you want to
15th,
read to it,
right?
Yeah, so I leave this on my
dash,
and I'm a nurse, and so I normally read it before I walk into my shift. And PJ picked it up. I was like, PJ, read us today's. And this is what it said. Actually, PJ, I think you should read it.
Okay. August 15th. It starts off with, don't complain to someone else. Cry out to God. He'll never turn a deaf ear to the cries of his people. Your life really is shaped by whom you cry to. If your cry is a complaint, you will find yourself with other complainers because misery loves company, and your heart will grow more discouraged and hardened. If you cry to people instead of God, you will ask those people to do what only God can do. They will feel overwhelmed and unable, and you will grow more desperate. If you silence your cries, crying only to yourself, you will feel increasingly alone and without anyone who cares and understands, and you'll feel more and more helpless. The good news of the gospel is that you don't have to muffle your cries. You don't have to be ashamed that you have reason to cry, and you surely don't have to feel that God is too grand, too far off, or too busy with more important things than to listen to your measly little cries for help. And I think one of the reasons for the Psalms in the Bible is to give us courage to cry and teach us when to cry. And he lists out several verses in Psalm, and he ends with, there are many more passages like these, the ones he referenced in the book of Psalms. They are there to encourage you to cry to the one who will never turn a deaf ear to your cries and who has the power and willingness to meet your need. And so, I think the common theme we know as believers is like anything else, we should take it to God and we should lay it at his feet. I bet you any money, the question is that people would have is, okay, like we were talking about earlier, like what is the practical step to doing such a thing? So, I want to give a brief definition of grief, what we're talking about from a biblical standpoint. And that would be, this is not my own, this is just something I looked up. Grief is the deep sorrow of the soul in response to loss. And loss can mean a person, a dream, a future, a plan, whatever it is. And then it continues though and says, yet it is carried with hope in God's comfort and his restoration. Restoration is where I'm kind of camping out when it comes to that. But we can break it down. So grief, in essence, the topic came about because, as Ashley alluded to, she's a nurse. And you work in what area?
I work with kids with cancer.
Which is to have the heart to do such a thing is, I would say, miraculous, because you have to witness a lot of heartbreak and a lot of things that we typically would not want to deal with in this life. And it kind of points us to the reality of why do bad things happen? Because cancer is one of the most horrendous things that we see in culture today. And so, obviously not going to go into details about her specific work, but a brief overview of that, where we kind of had a conversation, is you witness what's called the rebirth.
Rebirth, yeah. Something that we do. I work inpatient, so it's in a hospital setting, and these kids stay for a lot of time, whether they're getting chemo or something called a bone marrow transplant. If you don't know what that is, basically there are certain kids that need new bone marrow in their body in order to heal from what they're going through. And with certain conditions, it's a lot harder to heal from, and others it's a little bit easier, but no matter what, you walk through all of these risks of getting the new bone marrow. But I told PJ I got to give my first bone marrow transplant recently, and afterwards I watched this kid go through just different phases of it and still is going through them now. Every time I go to the hospital and see this patient, I watch those things kind of come up, but I also know what's coming. It just takes a long time. And so something that I've learned to do with grieving, just grieving the way that I know things should be and aren't because of sin and because of the world we live in. I've just learned to kind of sit and journal about those things. And so the Lord was teaching me about rebirth, and we call it the rebirth day. It's like we make a sign and it's this exciting thing. We all sign it like, we love you, so proud of you. Yeah. But rebirth day is actually a really hard day. And I told him it reminded me a lot of salvation, because when we do start walking with the Lord, people go through this of like, it's not going to be easy. And I just saw so tangibly what that looked like for a kid getting this entirely new bone marrow, having to shrink the immune system, take away everything that their body once did poorly, honestly, and reintroducing something that's going to help them be to the fullest that they haven't experienced before. And that's when the same thing of like walking with Jesus. But you have to die to yourself and die to the things that your body knew, physically speaking with the bone marrow transplant, but spiritually speaking also, all the selfishness, all the things that we want for ourselves, everything that we have planned has to die to walk the way that Jesus has called us to.
Yes. And so in that, like, it's so insane to me, like the process, it's a refining that takes place. And like you said, like they basically get cleaned out almost, like it's a rebirth. Yeah. And so I think about that, and this is just where my mind takes me. Don't like take what I say like as gospel, but I think about that, and I think about processes like grief, where there is a time through this that there is a learning process. And like so that's where I kind of like want to talk about things, because none of us, we talked earlier, like none of us have experienced like personal grief in regards to a loss of family, friend. Like we've all experienced loss, but like grief, like for me, for example, like one day I know, like when my dad passes away, like that'll be something like that I grieve like earnestly, and there's a process in that, and Ecclesiastes encourages us that there's a time for everything, including grief. And I think, is it chapter 3?
I think so. Yeah.
And so, like I guess my question is like, what's your guys' like overview as a believer in Christ, like of grief?
The first thing that pops into my head is
well, I was not expecting that question.
The first thing that comes into my mind, because I was thinking about this, just the way that I thought my life was going to go, it didn't go that way. And even like the things that we choose, it's like you still go through this grief of like what could have been and what you would expect to happen, or I don't know. Every choice that we make, I feel like there's a little bit of a grief of, oh, if it had happened that way, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of grief that we experience that's not on the scale of death, but it's like the little
loss of something.
And that starts when you're little, and C.S. Lewis talks about that in his book. But I think grief happens throughout your entire life. I don't think it just goes away at some point. I think it's something that is going to keep coming up, even if it's something that happened from long ago. And one of the biggest examples in my life, and actually is what made me want to be a nurse in the first place with oncology, is my mom lost her mom to cancer when my mom was 19 years old in college. And that hits me. There are moments I'll just start weeping. I'm like, if I lost my mom right now, I'd be lost. Like, I wouldn't know what to do. And to think about who she is and how she loves people, and that's the childhood that she had and what she went through at that season of life, which I'm just coming out of, I can't imagine. And I know that still affects her today, and she's in her 50s, and that was 30 years ago over that. And that's still something she has to grieve even today. So that's something that, I don't know, it's a lifelong thing. I don't think it just goes away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think anyone really like fully gets over grief. And like you alluded to, like I haven't experienced like a grief of losing a family member, but I'm, for some reason, like I'm always like preparing for it. That's just how my mind works, of like I'm preparing myself for what's ultimately bound to happen, unless I go first, which I kind of hope so, because then I don't have to go through that. Sorry, then I put all the grieving on everyone else in the family. But like I'll sit there and just bawl my eyes out at times, because I think of like the great times that I have with my family and stuff, and then I just I have peace about it though. So it's like a balance. So like as a Christian, we can grieve, but for those who know Christ, there's a balance because there is a piece of knowing we're going to see our loved ones again for those who know Jesus.
Yeah.
And so when I think about it, it's hard to think about losing someone here on earth, but then I just like kind of focus my mind to like heaven
Yeah.
and how everything's going to be perfect. And there's no more tears, no more grief. So I don't really understand like or know how to talk about grief here on earth. But like everything that you've seen you at work, like just talk about you make connections just because being a nurse. Like I think all nurses make connections with their patients, especially if you're like a recurring person, seeing their patients. So like you kind of like grieve people who are a lot, like you lose them, you lose a patient. So what's that like, and how do you get through that?
It is terrible. And something like when PJ was talking about that calling, and I just want everyone to know that I would not be a nurse without the Lord, because this is not something I ever thought or wanted to do growing up. Like being a nurse is the last thing I would have chosen. I don't like science. I love people, but that just sounded like just not what I was leaning towards at all. And the Lord just opened my eyes to a need and a passion that I didn't know I had, and definitely was from him. So that's for starters. So it's a new thing for me and something I learn to walk through every day. But with oncology, just what you're talking about, making relationships with the patients. With oncology, you see them over and over and over. It's not like they come in for a surgery and they leave. It's the same people. And so you do form those relationships. And I was telling them earlier, the first patient I lost as a nurse was in my second week. And I wasn't there for it happening, but I knew them, the family, well, just from spending time there. And the day that I found out, I was texted by, the hospital sends out emails for when patients pass away on our floor. And I saw that and I just wept immediately, and which I didn't know if that would be my response, because that's the first time that had happened as a nurse, but it broke me so quickly and I couldn't function for a minute. Luckily I was at home alone, so I had a second to just process, but
because that's the first time.
I don't know, it's unlike anything I can really explain, because I didn't walk through everyday life with them, but I did as a nurse. So it's a weird balance, because I didn't know them as well as like we know each other. But I still know that that's not what anyone expects or wants to see. Like we want everyone to just get better. That's the dream. But we also know at the same time it's not reality of how life is. So I just kind of learning to process grief. I told them I recently been journaling, like anytime the Lord kind of reveals something to me in the midst of whether it's death or rebirth or whatever I'm seeing in the hospital that changes my perspective, I have started to write it down and just write down the way that the Lord shows me himself. And with this patient, like I got to pray with them before I left the room, and it was the wildest experience, because the patient started praying out loud with me, and thankfully she's in heaven and I know that she was a believer. But with patients that aren't, that is a lot harder to grieve, and I haven't personally experienced that yet. So it's just hard, and not something I think I'm ever going to fully understand how to process through. And y'all know my heart for missions too, so that's part of it, of just meeting people, and for the people that you walk away from who don't say yes to the Lord, that's hard. Like, I feel like that's a grieving in itself. So that's just something I'm learning to walk through, and it takes community. Something that my community in Alabama has taught me is that I need to talk about these things with people, and I wasn't really good about that for most of my life, and I'm starting to learn, and having coworkers who are walking through the thick of it with me helps so much. But it's just,
that's good.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of myths behind grief that we could talk about, especially from a Christian perspective, because one myth would be that if you are grieving, then you have a lack of faith. And I'd agree that is a myth, because again, and let's just break that down. Like, grief biblically is all over the place. I think I think we get a first dosage of it in Genesis. Abraham grieves the loss of, or grieves for, I saw it. I had read it earlier. Grieve somebody.
Bye.
Yeah, grieve somebody. But Christians shouldn't grieve. Or no, grief is a sign of weak faith, is what I wrote down. And I don't believe that to be true. I think Jesus is the prime example of grief.
You're saying like a myth is grief is weak faith?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, again, we can go back to Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything, which means grief falls under that category. And then we witness our Savior grieve the loss of Lazarus. And so in that category, though, again, we're not talking about just people. There's people lose things every single day. I think there's testimony after testimony about, I lost something to someone. It could have been you were raped and you lost what was meant to be for a significant other. You lost the dream job, or like you got fired, or like the school, like the degree that you wanted didn't work out. Like we could chase that rabbit trail, but I guess my question is like, why isn't it a sign of weak faith? Like, why is grief part of this life that we live, especially as believers?
Where do these questions
these
come
are good
from?
Questions. Well, first, I don't think it's a sign of weak faith because we saw Jesus himself do it. So that helps a lot. That's an example to us. But also, I think what we know about ourselves is that we are in need consistently of something greater, and that's God. And I think grief is just a sign of that and a reminder of that. Like this life and the things that we walk through mean nothing without the one who holds it all together and holds us all in his hands and sees it all and grieves with us as Jesus did with Mary and Martha losing Lazarus. So I don't know. I think that's just the picture.
I think a lot of people think of grief and just like death. Like I think you said that earlier. But it's also like loss of relationships.
There's a death to something taking place.
Yes. So I would say I've experienced some type of grief.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you've listened to what we've released the past 2 weeks, to a point where something was just like put me on my knees every single day, and suffering through all of that, and then just having it like stripped away. Like there were some good things that I thought in the moment from it all, and having those quote unquote good things stripped away, I was grieving in that sense. But I think what makes it strong faith is that I feel personally, I feel closer, quote unquote, closer to the Lord when I'm going through struggles and trials than when I'm on the mountain, because it's like I feel like I'm relying on him more.
Yeah.
And I think we all do that at some point.
Yeah.
Like we just coast when we're on the mountain, but when we're in the valley, we're like crying out to the Lord. And then that's when like the faith, I think, is built stronger. So that's where I've seen it in my personal life. And whether it's little faith or big faith of a mustard seed, I've been there. I've had bigger faith. And I think it's all come from like struggles or the thought of like what could be.
We had the conversation though with a student the other day, and that was what she revealed. She said, I went through so much in the past year, and I was in the valley is how she described it. She said, I never felt closer to God. She says, everything's been going great lately, and I feel so distant from him. She's like, I've been reading my Bible, I've been doing the things. She's like, I just don't. And like it was kind of what we just described. Like there wasn't a reliance. I was like, do you feel like there's not a reliance that you have to have? And so like it shapes how like we see God. And that's not like a lack of faith per se because you're on the mountaintop, but rather it's like we have to recognize like where all these good things come from, because in the valley we're like, God, I desperately need you. Yeah. Like I need you to pull me out of the situation, because sometimes we're focused on the sight and not the faith.
Yeah.
Versus like when everything's going well, it's like we're just like, just going along, like just happy and a go-getter, but at the same time we're like, I feel like if we were honest with ourselves, we would say like, I don't feel like I need God right now.
I've prayed prayers of like, Lord, turn my life upside down. when I feel like I'm coasting.
Bold.
That was a bold prayer.
Yeah.
Get ready.
He does it. He does it. And then I'm like, why am I going through this? I'm like, well,
like,
you got what you asked.
You're like, God, turn my life so you get hit by a car right there.
It's like asking for patience and praying for patience, which I have been for a while, and that's a dangerous prayer to pray for.
I've prayed for humility a lot in college, and I got it. Let's just say that.
I think the devotion we just read too, like that's the beauty of the Psalms. It's like it's just emotions on full display, and it goes to show like the God that we serve. And this is one of the categories of just like a loving father rapping. Like that's what I picture. Psalm 23 is like my favorite psalm. I know it's so cliche, but today I've been like just pondering, like he makes me lie down in green pastures, and that's in the midst of like everything going on around us, the enemies that surround us. Like he makes us lie down, and I think about how like comforting that is of a God, even when he feels distant. C.S. Lewis even alluded to it, like grief. It's not like God has left us. He is. I mean, he can't. He never leaves us nor forsakes us. But he says it feels like a locked door. Like God's presence feels like a locked door, and what it does is it distorts our view of God. It feels cloudy, and I think that's why I brought up the rebirth, is because there's a process that takes place, and I believe grief must run its course, and that looks different for every single person. And so that like I think what it does is it just makes us cling to Christ. And it's like, Lord, no matter how long this takes, like, I know I need you, because the void in my heart cannot be filled by anything else. Because that's what we do. We fill grief and void, like the void, with everything else that we can possibly think of, whether it's old habits of alcohol, drugs, relationships, sex, and like even good things. We try to fill that void. And what it does is it's a temporary, like not even satisfaction, I'd say. We try to find a temporary fix. But grief is more than just an emotion, like we talked about, like, because like I forget which one of you said it, but grief isn't something that just goes away. Yeah. It is, when we lose something, we know in the back of our minds, like it's like the forgive and forget mentality. Like you can't forget it. Maybe you've forgiven the reality of like what's taken place, whether it's yourself or like we try to blame people for losing certain things like a job. And
while like it might not ever go away, there has to come to a point where as a Christian you don't let it hover over you and let it like just grab a hold of you in life. Like you're gonna have to take that step of faith and be like, Lord, I need you to walk with me and take it away from me.
And I think what that looks like, just walking through grief, to me the posture of that is on my knees. Of like when I'm in the valley, it puts me on my knees so fast, and you talked about that. Like it put me on my knees every single day. And I think that's a lot of times where it needs to start, for us to see that reliance on him and then see him draw near and know that he's there, even though it is really hard. And then from there, so when you do get out of the valley and you are on top of the mountain, does your response come to be like just coasting and kind of apathetic to who he is, or does it cause you to love him more because you looked down and you saw where you came from? And I think that's part of our perspective that we just have to learn to shift, because a lot of times we're up there and we're just happy-go-lucky, like everything's great. And then when we go back to the valley, we forget everything that just happened and how he brought us back up, and the promises that we know he's going to again. But why are we here now? He's walking with us the whole time. What is he trying to show me?
Yeah. Well, the race perspective of Hebrews, is like, hey, where are our eyes supposed to be? Yeah. On the finish line. Jesus. They should be on Jesus. And so like, even like in that race, you can, like I'm a visual learner. So like I think of hurdles. I'm not focused. I can't look at the hurdle in front of me. Like I have to keep my eyes focused on Jesus. So grief, mountaintop, whatever it is, my eyes have to stay, because that's what he's talking about, is the course of life is a race. And we should run with endurance. And in that, like we're going to get tired. We're going to get weary. We're going to experience things like grief. And we have to continue on. And I think for the believer, what I was thinking about is like, we think it's not fair that God does this, but we had a different conversation earlier in the car, but we were talking about like Satan is still the prince of the world. Like he rules the world like there's sin that reigns here, and God is still like he is still sovereign. He is still in control. Things happen to us, but God does not like. He's not saying like, oh, I'm writing this story and saying like this is like going to like this person is going to get raped, and like, but instead he's like he grieves with us. Yeah. But he's like, I'm still going to use that for a purpose. And I think that's where that's where perspective has to come in, because grief can take us far and wide. It could take us different routes. But I have to cling to something when I'm experiencing such things. And so where do I go?
Yeah. Well, are you going to jump in?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, so like, I don't understand how people who don't know Christ, cling to something, because last night I was listening to someone share their basically story of in the military, had stepped on an IED, had their legs blown off. And the whole message was kind of like perspective and going through recovery and all of that. It was just, you could focus on the bad things, but he was able to stand up and walk again with prosthetic legs. So even being able to do that and looking towards that like that's good, but there was missing Jesus. And it was just so close every time of talking about perspective and like, yeah, look towards the good, but where does the good come from? Yeah. And it's Jesus. And I don't understand how people get through without him, but I guess the way that they get through is filling the void with junk. Yeah. Lies.
Stuff that ends and is so temporary. And me and my good friend back in Birmingham, shout out Ellie Patterson, she and I were talking about what we do when we're sad. It's like, okay, a lot of times, especially girls, what we like to do is we sit in a car and we turn on the most depressing music and we just cry or scream or yell.
This is so funny.
Or maybe they do that too, perhaps. But
we don't do, like I don't do when I'm sad. I just randomly do it.
Just randomly
coming back from Alabama when we visited y'all, they wanted to start playing like sad music, and I went through like 2 songs of it and cried. But then I was like, wait a minute. We are not going to let the spirit of depression dwell in this car.
Amen. Come on.
And I turned it to Christian worship music. Yes. And I was like, we are going to worship through this.
Yes. And that's the thing.
I don't think we were sad about it.
We weren't going through anything.
But now we're making ourselves
like,
cry.
Let's listen to like depressing music and cry. And we did. And I was like no,
this is not helping anyone.
I just like, sometimes I'm like, I'll look out the window like.
Yeah, with the
teardrop. And I used to do that all the
rain.
time. And it was so weird. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is pointless. And it's not helping me grieve well. It's helping me cry, but that's not getting me anywhere. Like, what am I crying to? What am I calling out to? No one. This blank window, watching the world zoom by. It's like, what am I doing? And what's funny is today, Colton was like, let's play music that'll make us cry. And in my mind, I'm like, what's he about to put on? Worship music. I was like, praise God. Like,
it wasn't like I want to cry in like depression.
No, yeah. It was like, I want to be reminded.
Yes. It was like, I feel like a lot on my chest.
Yes.
And it needs to come out. And I'm going to cry.
I'm going to sing about the goodness of God.
I might as well sing about Jesus.
Yes.
And think about his goodness and cry.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to, I don't know, 1-800 song and thinking about my last days.
Right. And that's like me and her were talking about that that's our go-to, but that's not helping. Yeah. And just what does it look like to sit with someone and actually ask the hard questions and process through it together, or turn on worship music, or sit and worship with our guitars together. That's so much more fruitful and leaves you with such a better perspective and understanding of why we're even here.
Yeah. And that's so big on like community and why you need community, because grief and everything, you need people that are going to lift you up and walk with you through it all.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my next question was going to be like, okay, again, practically, like how do people deal with grief? Because it's like some people may be listening, they're like, okay, like you've explained it, like I'm feeling all of that and I know I should like turn to Jesus, but what does that practically look like? And community is one of those things that he gives us. There was a process to it. I don't think the Psalms is a good example, because most of the time David's writing from when he's like on the run or he's alone.
But it is cries to God, which I think is a perspective changer. I think if you were just crying.
Well, Psalm 13 is a like lament, honestly.
Yes.
Is like what I would say first and foremost. Like cry out to God.
Mhm.
Like if you are bottling those up, it's eventually going to explode, like, or you're going to become numb to the reality of life. And we live in this world, like reality has set in.
Mm.
So I have emotions and I need to take them somewhere.
Yeah.
And so Psalm 13, I think it there's a Psalm 13 pattern. It says, cry out, ask, remember, trust.
Mm.
And like, again, people are like, okay, I get it. But I'm like, are you honestly doing it?
Are you
sitting
honestly
down
doing
and
it?
saying, like, just like weeping
Mm.
at the feet of Jesus, whether it's in a prayer closet, on your couch, in your car, wherever you're at? Like, this is where you have to eliminate the, like, do I care about people around me? Do I care about what people think about me? And I need to focus my attention, my thoughts, my heart on Jesus.
Can we also say and like declare that it's not emasculating for men to cry and weep in this sense too? Because I feel like there's a lot of guys out there who are in the church who don't want to open up about things, and they bottle it all up because they don't want to be, number one, vulnerable, because they see it as a sign of weakness. And then they're like, oh, crying's for wimps. I don't do that. But it's healthy.
Right.
And it's healthy to be vulnerable.
I think saying that in itself is actually a weakness, of saying, oh, like, men don't need to cry.
Yeah.
And Jesus did it. It is prideful. And
it
I
just
get
reveals,
it.
like, our sin.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do understand, like, men have this instinct of like protection and is trying to, like, there's a perspective there that I think is.
But if God is like how we're like in the household, like,
yeah,
weird, like it's God in the church, and we look to God and we see, like, we have a God that laments with us. He cries with us. He feels with us. We in the same token can be that example and still be the protective, loving husband that we're called to be. Protect. There was 3 I had: lament honestly, invite community. Like, you can't isolate yourself, and then there's an anchor in hope. And so it's almost like, because like you can imagine, again, visual learner here, like we're just in boats in life, and like the question is, like, where are we anchoring? Because sometimes we're like, where we're anchoring, it's causing it to drift. Like, it's not anchored down. Like, that anchor's like starting to move. We're starting to waver. We're getting anxious. I kind of think about Jesus and the disciples in the boat, where it's rocky and they're like, Lord, like, like, we're gonna get like killed out here in this storm. And immediately God's like,
peace,
bro, y'all don't have any faith. And he's on the ship.
Crazy.
He's on the boat with them.
And that's us.
Literally.
I say crazy, but that's us.
That's us. And how many times do we just like not have this, like, I guess, what would you describe it as? Maybe faith? To just trust, like, if God created everything, including me, what, like, if he's sufficient to save me and he's sufficient to create all things, he'll sustain me. He'll sustain us. What'd you say?
Same thing.
Yeah.
And this whole time, I've just been thinking another book that I looked at, Job. Key scripture for grief. And someone who experienced
Dude
loss.
went through the ringer.
Lost everything but
Can't
his
wait to meet
life. And what?
Can't wait to meet him.
Me too. It's gonna be.
I think you said kill him, and I was like, wait.
And I was like, say that again. But
he died.
Anyways, I was thinking about him and all that he walked through, like the unimaginable. Lost everything that he had, and yet he sought the Lord. And there were moments where he was super frustrated and even wanted to end his life. Like, he got to the ends of himself.
His wife told him to end his life too.
Yeah.
Curse God and die.
Very nice.
Curse God and die. Yeah. And then she died. And it's like, well, what's happening? Anyways.
Well, she lived. She died eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But they're all dead.
No, but like, he restored everything, and like, she was a part of that process.
Yes.
The Old Testament is all dead.
The old.
Well,
except
the people in the Old Testament.
Yeah. But
actually, they're all the ones who know God are alive in Christ now. So
true.
That'll preach.
But the reason, one, that book is huge on grief, and just knowing the stories of people in the Old Testament, but I had a middle school girl recently tell me that what she wanted in her walk with the Lord was to not be anxious anymore and to not struggle like she did, or just focus on the things that she's struggling with and the things she's walking through and doesn't understand. And she said, I just want to live the life that I see of people in the Bible. Like, it was just so good and they were almost perfect. And I was like, you need to go.
You need to read Bible.
And that's the thing. I think one young mind, like, still just struggling with
Heroes
things.
of the Faith. I mean, you read that.
Yes. And so she just struggling with things in her personal life and didn't know how to process them. And so she saw almost like Hebrews 11, like heroes of the faith. She saw that portion and is like, wow, why is my life not like that?
Yeah.
And I think just for the moment in her own grief, she forgot what they had gone through. And yes, that's the legacy they have. But when you do go back and read their stories in the book, it's like, whoa, but they walked through that. Yet their faith is what we remember. And that's just huge, but I think it's easy to forget.
I think about the Rebirth again. I keep going back to this, but it's so good because you talked about like how much like how negative the process is. Like after they receive this bone marrow transplant, like they're throwing up, they're ill, they're hurting, and I think the same way.
Trying to reject
yes,
it. Yeah.
Yes, and it's like all of these things. But in the end, it's what's good for them in that process. Like in salvation, rebirth for us as believers, like there is a process that's not always, like it's not all sunshines and rainbows. There's like God breaks our bones almost and breaks us down to then like, help shape us and mold us. When we're clay, when you think about like the potter and the clay illustration, you can think like he is just like molding us. Yeah. You're like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. And yet the masterpiece behind it that he makes out of the story that he's writing in your life, I think about those things and I think about testimonies and I'm like, well, yes, I wouldn't want grief to be a part of my story if it was about me, but it's about the testament of who Jesus is. And I think about Jesus on the cross and how it had to take place for us to now be where we are, to have faith in Christ. So something so excruciating, something so just heart-wrenching to think about. If you watch The Passion of the Christ, you get just a glimpse of the idea of what that was like. And yet in that, we don't think about like, man, he tells me to take up my cross and follow him. I am crucified with Christ. And yet here I am rejecting the reality of who God is because of something I'm experiencing. How little do we think of God and how much do we put him into a box when in reality, he's shaped it for us. I mean, he's painted the picture. And so why wouldn't I want to be obedient to the reality? Because I know the end of the story.
Jesus wins.
Yeah. And I will 100% pick up a cross rather than a crown here on earth. When I know the God who created the heavens and the earth. So the heavens and I think at the end of the day, yes, it's easier said than done, but there's no one like fix all for every, like this isn't a podcast where it's like, hey, here's 5 ways to fix your grief. Rather it's, man, like
I think my opinions are pretty good though.
Right. So I will be the new co-host to the Battle Longs podcast. Colton's done.
Wait a minute, this is my podcast.
Not anymore.
I think my encouragement is like the heavens just to like my
that was wait, let me ask the final question because that was gonna be my final question.
What?
So
the heavens and the earth.
I was going to say, I think we can have someone on here to go deeper into grief and like how they got over it. But I think this was very good at like diving into what grief is, the perspective change of it. But my last question was going to be like last encouragement to someone who is going through grief or
the heavens and
possibly entering into a season of grief. Like if there's a loved one that they know is on,
their deathbed.
Yes.
The heavens and the earth.
To put it lightly, encouragement going into that season or coming out of that season.
The heavens and the first. The heavens and the earth. 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 The biggest
thing, it's all that keeps coming to my mind, is you're not alone.
The heavens
you might
the heavens
feel like you're the only person experiencing what you are. But
The heavens and the earth.
You have people around you for a reason. And if you feel like you don't,
The heavens and
find them, because this wasn't meant to be walked alone. And it starts on your knees, talking to the God who formed you and saying like, back on my knees. Come on. But
the heavens and
that's
the
where it starts, of knowing that the God of the universe, who knows you more intimately than you know yourself, is sitting with you. And he is Elroy. He's the God who sees you and he loves you. And it may not feel like it right now and you may not understand why, but what we do know is that in the end, he has all authority.
Yeah.
And he's there with you walking through it. So lean into him, but also don't isolate. Bring it to the people around you, because they want to be there for you. It's not a burden. You need them and they need you. So that's the biggest thing I would encourage. Lean into who's around you.
Mine would just be like God invites your tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I find so much comfort in that, like, and not just like physical tears, just like your prayers, your emotions, your anger, all of it. And I just think about how one day he'll wipe away every tear, and that's a promise. And so I go back to being sustained in every circumstance. Like, hey, he's a comforter. He's a God who cares and he loves you. And so he invites your tears, he invites your pain, because one day he's taking it all away. So put your faith into Jesus and keep running this race with endurance.
I take that whole tear thing literally and to heart. I give him my tears. A lot of
Me
them
too.
He's like, actually, I have a bowl in the other room. I keep these are tears for God.
Water bottle. No, I think that was good.
Yeah. Ashley, who's going to win the college football national championship this year?
About this yet.
PJ.
Who's it?
The Sanford Bulldogs.
Oh, wow.
They actually can't because they're FCS, but
Don't hate on us.
I don't.
Yes,
Sanford
you
is.
do.
I would go to Sanford today.
That's
100%. That is a beautiful campus.
Yes.
Everyone go to Sanford.
Honestly, like, there's the plug. Shout out to Sanford.
Shout out.
The school itself is just it's beautiful, but also like just their values. I'm all about it.
I am.
When I start a Christian university one day, I'll look at Sanford for my
Lord help us.
It could be a sister college.
It'll be hotel rooms instead of dorms.
We can't get into this. This is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a good place to end it. So,
Ashley, thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Ashley.
Ashley.
Oh, shout
If you
out.
know, you know.
Just
Shout
gonna
out
say
to
that.
Hope Fredlund.
Let's go.
Hope Fredlund.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.